Just want to make sure it's on. Okay. All right. Everything looks good from here. If y'all know what I had to go through to get on this live tonight. Oh my gosh. What's it like? Okay. It's not too late. It's not too late, but you know, I've been trying to do these lives at 9 o'clock on Fridays. And yeah. But honestly, this may be like my last live for a while because it's just causing me, I feel like, a little bit too much stress and anxiety right now doing the lives. It's a lot to get everyone like situated, and like on the Fridays to get everyone in the bed, and the two youngest are going through this whole sleep thing, and yeah, I think it's a little bit too much right now. But I do want to do this video or this live because I have been meaning to do it for a while. I said I was going to do it last week and that fell through. So everyone's finally in the bed now. So I'm going to try to do it tonight. So if you were looking forward to this video, or you like watching lives, like I really do like the lives because I get to see you guys feedback, like if you leave something in the chat or whatever, and I get to do different things that I wouldn't normally like film. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go back to, at least I'm gonna try to go back to uploading on Saturdays. So Wednesdays and Saturdays at 4 p.m. I think that might work better. And I think I'm ready to do, I'm ready to do 2 videos a week again, you know, because I had stopped during my pregnancy. But anyway, yes, tonight's video is about all of my birth stories. So kind of like the things leading up to them, the births in particular, and then, you know, just how they went and everything like that. So, and I hope you like the background. I tried something a little different, but I'm also trying to be considerate of the baby because, you know, I think the light was a little bit too bright for him before. So I got my stand here that is holding on by a thread, and I hope it doesn't fall. And I got my candle, one of the candles that I got from her birthday, and I really, really love it. So hopefully you enjoy the ambiance too. So yes, let's just start with the birth story. So my name is Tashima McRae. I'm a doula and mom of 4. I have 4 beautiful children. I have 1 girl and 3 boys, from ages 5. So say as my oldest, she's 5. She'll be turning 6 in January, Lord willing. And my youngest is 9 months. So he just turned 9 months. He was born this year in March. So I have quite a bit of experience with pregnancies and childbirth and all that stuff. And like I said, I'm a doula also as well. So on this channel is all things motherhood, childbirth, breastfeeding, labor and delivery, and especially postpartum, which I feel like does not get talked about enough. So yes, we're going to go over my births from Saya to Asa. So this is probably going to be a lengthy video. Hopefully the baby cooperates and stays asleep so I can get everything out. But if he doesn't, then I'll just try to, you know, film with him. We'll see how that goes. So first things first. Let's start with Saya. Okay, so just a little bit of background. I pretty much had all of my children back to back, and I've had 2 C-sections and 2 vaginal births. So, you know, if you're new to this channel, if maybe you never, if this is your first video of mine that you're seeing, I do have all of my birth stories in a playlist. So each one specifically where I detail everything. I'm going to try to give as much details as I can tonight, but I don't want this to be too long, so I guess we'll see. I'm thinking in my head like maybe 15 minutes on each, and that will probably be an hour. But we'll see. And some of them are a little bit longer than others. But okay, so starting with Saya, the pregnancy was, well, I had really bad morning sickness for all of my pregnancies. So, you know, she was my first pregnancy. I didn't know what to expect as far as pregnancy, or, you know, like how my body would take or handle pregnancy. I found out I was pregnant like right away with her because I had really, really regular cycles. So as soon as I missed my period, like, you know, I took a test, positive, blah, 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 blah. Okay, and so Saya's original due date was March 14th. And I think I remember all of my kids' original due dates. So if you're watching and you're a mom also, let me know if you remember all your kids' due dates as well. Yeah, I remember all of them. But so yes, her original due date was March 14th, 2017, but she was born January 26th, 2017, so she was early. She was 7 weeks early. Ended up having her 33 weeks and 2 days. or 33 weeks and 4 days, one of those. But basically a lot of morning sickness for my whole entire pregnancy. And you know, sleepy, tired, all of that stuff. The pregnancy was going well until about like 20 weeks. And that's when you get your anatomy scan, so then they check the baby's growth, their limbs and their weight and all of that good stuff. And that's when she, for the first time, officially was measuring small. Like up until that point, you know, I wasn't considered high risk or anything like that. It was my first pregnancy. Just went to my appointments and all of that. Everything was fine. But because she was measuring small, and I would say really, really small, for like a 20-weeker, I think she was at the time maybe 2 weeks behind. They wanted to keep an eye on that. So then from that point on, I was followed closely for the rest of that pregnancy. So I had Dopplers, I had growth ultrasounds. I think it was every 4 weeks they were checking the growth. And so of course that was a problem of concern, and that did put me in the high risk pregnancy, it did put me in a high risk category because she was so small. So they were kind of checking me the whole time, and they didn't really know like why she was small. Like when they did the ultrasound for my blood flow to the placenta and everything, that everything looked good. So it was kind of like a wait and see kind of thing. And then out of nowhere, I started to like swell like everywhere. Like I started to swell, and my blood pressure started to go up, like towards the end or towards when they wanted me, when I was induced. So that was induced with Saya. So what happened? What happened exactly? It's clear, but it's not. So I had an appointment where my blood pressure was a little bit high. I think it was like a Friday or something like that, and I was told to just go home and rest, you know, drink a lot of fluid, stay away from salt, that kind of thing. So that's what I did. And then, you know, the weekend, I remember the weekend was, like Saturday was okay, but I remember that Sunday in church, like my feet swelled up so big. They were so big. I don't think I could even wear regular shoes. And I can't remember if I woke up that way or if my feet, like as the day went on, started to swell. But by the end of the day, my feet were so big, they were unrecognizable. And I do want to do a video on a preeclampsia, because that is what I had, that is what I was diagnosed with, and that is the reason why they wanted to do an induction and, you know, get her out as quick as possible, because it's one of those pregnancy complications that's really life-threatening. It's really dangerous, and that's what I had, and it came on suddenly. So I want to do a video about that, just so other women out there who are pregnant or maybe pregnant in the future can kind of have a like guidelines, things to look out for. Like sometimes your providers will tell you certain things, but I had ticked the box for all the things that preeclampsia is. So I was like textbook with that. So yes, my feet were swelling up. I remember on Sunday, and I was a little worried. My mom was a little worried. She's a nurse, by the way, and she's a doula also, so she was present for all of my births. But I didn't feel like too weird or anything. I just thought maybe, hey, this is just a normal pregnancy thing. I remember the next day I went to work on a Monday, and I wasn't really feeling that great, but you know, I toughed it out. And I got home, I just tried to rest. And I had an appointment that Tuesday morning, and I remember my mom made me an omelet. And like I said, I had really bad morning sickness, and I had a lot of food aversions as well. So she made me an omelet. I ate like half of it, and then I was like completely full. And I can't remember if I threw it up or not, but when I went to my appointment, and this was just a regular routine appointment, it was actually it was an ultrasound. That was my Dopplers. I was getting my Dopplers done, where it was checking like the placenta and everything, and it might have been a growth scan too. Baby was already, Saya was already head down. I did not know the gender. So when I went to my appointment, everything was, I think things started at that point to look a little funny on the monitors, and they were like, I'm not really sure about this. Like they weren't seeing like the practice breathing that they want to see with babies. When you get an ultrasound, and they weren't seeing like the movement that they wanted to see. And I'm trying to think if I felt movement, but I'm not sure if it was like consistent with what she was, you know, previously doing. So okay, all that happened, and you know, things were wrapping up. But then they took my blood pressure at the end, and they always take, you know, your blood pressure, or they always took my blood pressure. And then at the end, my blood pressure was high. It was high. It was like 140 over 90, I want to say. And so it was really high. But like I said, it was starting to track upwards. So they were really worried about that. They were really worried about how the baby was performing. I think I might have even had a, yes, I had a non-stress test, and that did not look good either. So they was like, yeah, we want you to go upstairs to triage because you're having this baby today. Pretty much that's how it went. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what's going on? I just came in to be checked out, like, routinely. And they was like, no, I'm pretty sure you're having this baby. So they sent me upstairs to triage. And I was just supposed to stay there for like a few hours just to see how things were going, you know, see if my blood pressure would come back down, see if baby would cooperate. And things just were not looking good, and my blood pressure was steadily going up. So then they were like, yeah, we're going to induce you. You're having this baby now. And I was just so scared, like, you know, because it's my first baby, my first time giving birth, and I knew she would be super, super early. I was like, what is going on? It was just crazy. And, you know, by the time my doctor got there, they was like, yes, we're definitely going to induce you. You're definitely having this baby, you know, this weekend. I think it was... No, it was a Tuesday. Yeah, so that was a Tuesday. That was January 24th. And because they knew she was going to be early, I had to get, like, the steroid shots in my thigh, I think. I think I got it in both thighs. And that shot was just... It was the most unfriendly thing ever. It was this really, really big needle. And I remember, like, they kind of warned me of the sensation that I would feel when I got it. But it was like a really, like I could feel it, like it was like a thick substance or whatever. But basically you get that shot if you're going to be delivering early, because it delivers, I believe, surfactant to the baby's lungs so that the baby's lungs don't collapse when they're born, because that's one of the issues you run into with a premature baby. So I got that, and I think you have to have that at least both shots 24 hours before birth. So as soon as they knew that they wanted to induce me, I got one shot. I think I waited 12 hours and got the next shot. So I was in triage for a while. They weighed me and everything. And one thing I want to point out is that when they weighed me, I had gained like 10 pounds in 2 days, like of just fluid. I was swelling everywhere. And I think in Saya's birth story, I might have put pictures of my face, but my face was so swollen. Like, and I was, at the time I gave birth, I was, I'm trying to think, like before the swelling, maybe like 185, again like 40-ish pounds during the pregnancy. But by the time I actually, like, they weighed me that day, I was like 195, 196, and it was literally all fluid. You know, I was uncomfortable anyway because my feet were swollen, my face was swollen, my hands were swollen, everything was swollen. So they, you know, they did tell me that was one of the signs. So after the triage and after I got the steroid shots, then I was taken to a labor and delivery room to start the induction. And like I said, it was my first birth, so I really didn't know how things were going to go. And the first thing I had was, what was it? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was called Cervidil. I had the, so to ripen cervix, I think it's called Cervidil. And mine was given to me. So there's so many different ways that you can get Cervidil now, which even 5 years ago, there's like tons of different ways. They do gels now, they do pills now. Like some women get to have pills and they get to go home and rest and then come back after a certain amount of time. But for me, I had Cervidil, and it was given as like it was placed towards the cervix. It was placed towards the cervix. So, you know, 33 weeks, your body's not doing much in terms of labor, like getting yourself ready for labor and things like that. Like that happens later in pregnancy. So my cervix obviously was not ripe at all. I was maybe 1 centimeter, if that. Like I was not ready for labor. So I remember the Cervidil was placed, and that was probably, out of the whole entire thing, and I know it's crazy to say, that was the most painful part for me. It was so horrible. My doctor had to take her, and it looked like a shoestring. It wasn't really long, maybe like that long or something. And that's what it looked like. Like she showed it to me. I was like, okay, yeah, fine, whatever, you know, but that was the worst thing ever. So she kind of had to place it all the way, you know, in the furthest corner of the vagina, all the way up to the cervix, and kind of like scoot it in, and it was horrible. I hated it. It was the worst thing. And then that, so okay, so that was the cervix ripener that stayed in to soften the cervix, and I'm not so sure if it dilated you a little bit or not, but that was like the first step of the induction process. So that after 12 hours it was taken out, and again with the pain, because then she had to stick her finger back up there and kind of dig it out, or at least find it, and then pull the whole rest of the string out, which was horrible. I hated it. At that point, after the Cervidil came out, so that was 12 hours. So this was a long process before, you know, like the C-section was called. We were trying to get things going. We were trying to get, you know, a vaginal birth. That still was my goal at the time. So we tried. We tried for a while. So after the Cervidil, then what was inserted? I think the balloon was inserted. And so that's going to like expand the cervix. And usually when you're 3 centimeters dilated, or when you are, yeah, when you're 3 centimeters dilated or more, it'll either come out or they'll take it out after the 12 hours. And so that stayed in for 12 hours. Now, mind you, up to this point, I think I'm on like a low dose of Pitocin when the balloon is inserted. So I'm on Pitocin. I am on magnesium because of my blood pressure. It just, like I said, it was going up steadily. And so they didn't want me to have a seizure. So then I was placed on the magnesium as well. And the magnesium was, oh, I hated it. The magnesium just made you feel really hot. It made me feel really hot. It made me feel like really dizzy. It made me feel like just out of it. It was really weird. It was a really weird experience. And I remember I had to like I had glasses on, but I had to take them off because it just made me feel loopy. Like, I guess that's the best word for it. It made me feel loopy, like high or something. I've never been high before, so I don't really know exactly what that feels like, but that's the best word I could use to describe the magnesium. So I was on magnesium, I was on Pitocin to get contractions started. So I was having contractions by that point that the balloon was inserted. And like I said, that stayed in for 12 hours. It didn't come out on its own after the 12 hours. My doctor took it out. So when that was inserted, they filled it up a little bit, and then, you know, it's supposed to open your cervix a little bit more to 3 centimeters. So by the time it came out, I was 3 centimeters. And I was having contractions, and I didn't have, you know, like an epidural or anything like that, so I was able to, you know, move around how I wanted to. But because I was on the magnesium, I think I had to stay in the bed. I'm pretty sure I had to stay in the bed because I was on magnesium, and I was a fall risk because of that. And like I said, it made you loopy, so you definitely weren't like steady on your feet or anything with that. So I changed positions as much as I could, and things were going, like, progressing, but not like quickly. But, you know, it was my first birth, so they don't really expect things to progress fast anyway. But what was happening was they were taking what's it called? They were taking my blood test. So when you get admitted to the hospital, one of the first things you get is like a hep block. So of course I had that, which is, you know, your IV. I had that because I was having Pitocin going through me. The magnesium was also going through the IV. And I might have had saline also as well, in addition to the magnesium. And then, what else? Why did I even mention that? It was some reason why I mentioned that. So I had that. And yeah, I couldn't get out of the bed. Oh, so yeah, so when I got admitted, they did my, you know, my blood drawing, you know, just to make sure everything is okay. Of course, I'm always, at least for me, I'm always, for my pregnancies a little bit anemic, so that was low. My iron was low, but my liver enzymes were really, is it high? I think they were high. And so that was some concern for them. So every 4 hours, I think, they were drawing my blood to see. And like I said, in addition to the high blood pressure and the high liver enzymes, things were just going up and up and up. And I can, at the end of, like, right before the C-section was called, I was just out of it. I was so out of it. Like, I couldn't even feel the pain. Like, I was, you know, having contractions, and I could feel the contractions. And at that point, like, towards the end, the Pitocin was all the way up, like, to the max amount that they could give you. and the contractions weren't really doing too much, I guess. Like, they weren't really bringing my baby down. Now, the last time I had a growth scan, they had estimated that she was about 3.5 pounds or something like that. So she actually estimated to be more than she turned out to weigh, because when she was born, she was only 2 pounds and 11 ounces. So she was even smaller than what was estimated. And so, like I said, because the labor was not really going, and one of the things about magnesium is, yes, it keeps you from having seizures, but it also can slow down labor as well. So I had that working against me, and just my body was just, it was not taking well to the induction, and I was just getting sicker and sicker and sicker. I was throwing up literally the whole entire time. The whole entire time throughout the labor, I was throwing up. And I think they said it was like one of the side effects of the magnesium. And just sometimes in labor itself, like whether you're on Pitocin or anything like that, you may throw up at a certain point of labor or feel like really queasy. But it was really early labor for me. Like, I don't think I made it even past 3, I feel like, with Saya. So yeah, I was getting sick. My liver enzymes were going up. My blood pressure, I think the magnesium worked a little bit, but then it was like not working as far as keeping my blood pressure down. And the doctor came in. I remember she came in. And now, like I said, this was past 24 hours, because I had the steroid shots, I had the Cervidil, and I had the balloon. So the Cervidil and the balloon alone, both of those were in for 12 hours. So we're going into like 36 hours of pretty much, trying to get this baby out, or, preparing to get this baby out, and nothing was really budging or working, and I was getting sicker. The baby was not really tolerating labor also good as well. So she came in and she said, yeah, I think we're going to need to do the C-section to get the baby out as quick as possible, because you're getting sick and now it's affecting your baby and all of that stuff. And I was so out of it. I was like, yes, just whatever needs to be done at this point. Let's just do it. And I remember, like, I can't remember too much from the moment that I signed the papers and she was actually out, because I was so out of it. But I remember thinking I was going to die, though. Like, I was like, I'm going to die, but I hope my baby's going to be okay. Like, that was the only thing I could think of. It was an experience. So yeah, I was in the bed. They got my, I signed my paperwork for the C-section. I had to put on a bonnet kind of thing. It looked like aluminum foil. I had to put that on, take my glasses off. I might have had contacts in at that point, and I had to take those out. And then I was wheeled down in the bed that I was in. No. I was wheeled down in the bed that I was in, but then they put me on the surgical bed to have the C-section, and that was like a really scary experience, because I didn't know what to anticipate with a C-section. So I remember when they taped my arms down, like, I started to freak out. Like, I was freaking out. Like, it was so scary. But yeah, they taped my arms down. And like I said, up until this point, I was throwing up consistently throughout this whole entire thing. And so, I let the doctor know, I still feel like I have to throw up. And, of course, with a C-section, you're laying down flat on your back. And I was just so scared of, like, asphyxiating. So I let the doctor know, I still feel queasy. Can I have something for that? He was like, oh, sure, yeah. So they just gave me something through my IV, and it worked instantly. Thank God, because I was so scared I was going to throw up. Now, I think there was a drink that I had to take before the C-section, and that was really, 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 really nasty. But I think I kept it down for Saya. So yeah, so they did the C-section, and from that point on, a lot of stuff is hazy until, like, I heard her crying. So, when they did the C-section, and it was like, it's a girl, and I was like, it's a girl? No, it's not. Stop playing with me. She came out screaming, which is really, really good, because they weren't sure if her lungs would be developed. They just didn't really know what to expect with the baby, because it didn't seem like she was tolerating things well. But they didn't even have to tell me she was out. I heard her. That was the first thing. I knew she was out, because she was screaming, and she stayed screaming. So that was really, really good and exciting. In the whole pregnancy, I thought she was the boy. My family thought she was the boy. So, it was really, really cool, because I had my heart set on a girl anyway. So yeah, so that was Saya's birth. She was, like I said, she was 2 pounds 11 ounces. I think she was 15 inches and 3/4. And because she was born early, Like, she had no problems with breathing, thank God. Like, that's one of the first things, or one of the major things that they, you know, are worried about for premature babies. And like I said, she was only 33 weeks, so lung development doesn't even start until, not start, but it's not really like good until like 36. So the steroid shots definitely worked, so grateful for that. Now, she did still have to stay in the NICU for 7 weeks um, after I had her. So she ended up coming home, I think, like March 4th, maybe like 10 days before her due date. And they do tell you, just so that you don't get your hopes up, to just kind of anticipate your baby not coming home until their original due date. So, you know, it was a long 7 weeks. I was up there at the hospital every single day. I stayed at the hospital postpartum for a whole entire week. I think it was a week from the time that I was admitted until the time that, you know, I went home. So like what is that, 4 days postpartum, just because it was taking a long time for my blood pressure to stabilize. And at that point, once she was delivered, I was on magnesium for 24 hours after the birth. So I was on it through the whole entire induction, for her delivery, and then 24 hours afterwards. So I was on it for a really long time. That stuff is a beast. I hated it. But, you know, it did keep me from having seizures, so I am grateful for that. And then afterwards, they prescribed me labetalol, so that's a blood pressure pill that I had to take every day, maybe 2 times a day. And I had to take that up to 2 months or 3 months postpartum, because, yeah, my blood pressure was just wonky. It was all over the place. So that is Saya's birth story. I don't think I left anything out. I don't think so. Yeah, she stayed in the NICU, up there every day. When she was able to take feedings by mouth, we breastfed, and then she was able to come home, and yeah, so that's Saya. Now let's move on to Matthias. So Matthias was, he was, I'm trying to think, what should I start with first? Okay, so maybe I should just start off to like where Saya was. So I was like 11 months postpartum, I think, when I got pregnant with Matthias. I was still breastfeeding, and again, I found out right away, because really regular periods, like after that postpartum period where, you know, you're not having a period and then you get it again after I started getting it again, it was regular. So yeah, Matthias, as far as like growth and everything, was always on the charts. He grew really well. Matthias was my biggest baby. And I probably have to say my healthiest pregnancy. Healthiest pregnancy, yeah. He was definitely my healthiest pregnancy, and that's probably why he was my biggest baby. But the pregnancy went well. I know there was like one point in the pregnancy where they thought they saw like a bright spot on his heart, and I had to meet with some specialists because of that, and he assured me that wasn't something to be concerned about, but just something that they wanted to keep an eye on. And of course, because Saya was a C-section, and because I had the preeclampsia, all my pregnancies thereafter were considered high risk. So, you know, they treated it as high risk from the very, very beginning. But like I said, with Matthias, he tracked for growth and development and all that stuff when I had my ultrasounds and all that. It wasn't really too much to worry about with him as far as the pregnancy itself. And I did breastfeed Saya pretty much the whole entire pregnancy, probably until I might have stopped with her in May, and Matthias was born in September. So I just gave myself a little break, but I didn't have any problems with breastfeeding her and maintaining my supply while I was pregnant. I was advised against breastfeeding while I was pregnant, just because I was considered high risk, and because the doctor you know, said that my baby, well, you know, Saya would be taken away from nutrients from my baby that I was carrying, which, you know, I just made sure that I ate enough for all 3 of us. And it is a lot of work, though, to breastfeed and be pregnant at the same time. So, you know, if you are doing that, or if you have plans on doing that, just kind of take that into consideration. But everything worked out fine with that. Now, with Matthias, I knew right off the bat that I wanted to try for a VBAC. So that's Vaginal birth after cesarean. There was no doubt in my mind that's what I wanted to do, because I never even planned on a C-section in the first place. And so that was like the first thing that I asked, my providers when I went to my first prenatal appointment, like, hey, I would like to try for a VBAC. What's your policy on it? What's your stance on it? What's your success rate? All of that stuff. But then I had did, just a little bit more research about birth and all of that stuff. I wasn't a doula yet, but, I'm going to do my research. If nothing else, I'm going to do that. And so they were on board. They were all with it. Until about... So, okay. Matthias's original due date was September 27th, and he was born September 26th. So Matthias was on time. He was on time. But I do remember at the end of the pregnancy, they were saying that because I, had a history of a C-section, that I had to go into labor on my own. So that was the requirement for me to be able to be back. And so they weren't going to induce me, they said, and they weren't going to let me go past my due date. So I just remember just praying, like, God, please let this baby come, please let this baby come, because I really want my vaginal birth. And I really tried to set myself up really well for a vaginal birth. So everything that I could do on my end to prepare, and make sure, that I was physically fit, and make sure that, he was in the right position and everything like that, I did. I did the exercise ball, so I started all that stuff with Matthias. And I did have my vaginal birth, and he, I know I was scheduled, so they did still have me schedule a C-section, I think the day of my due date. Yeah, they weren't even trying to let me go a week over. They were just like, if he doesn't come, then you have to have the C-section. So I remember scheduling it and feeling like upset about it. But the weekend before he was born, the weekend before he was born, I remember that I was at a family member's party, and by then I was so heavy, so miserable, because, this is the first time that I'm carrying the full term. Like, say it was 33 weeks. So once I got 33 weeks with Matthias, I was a little scared, but I was prepared. Like, I was preparing myself to deliver just in case, because, we didn't know what was going to happen. But once I got to 39 weeks, or even 36, I was like, whew, this baby heavy. Say it wasn't big. So he was heavy. And I did know his gender. He was the only child that I found out the gender while I was pregnant, just because I had so many tests and things like that for all of my pregnancies afterwards. But, because I didn't know the first time, I just wanted to see if their experience would be different, with him. So when they asked me if I wanted to know, I think I got a blood test done, because for some reason I just don't trust the ultrasounds. Like, I don't trust them doing the gender check, where they check to see if you're having a boy or girl during your anatomy scan. And I got the blood test done, I think, at like 9 weeks pregnant, and it came back boy. So I was pretty sure that it was a boy. And my pregnancy was really different as far as pregnancy with him versus Saya. But yeah, so I knew he was a boy. We already had his name and everything like that. And yeah, at the end, I was just tired. I was tired. He felt really, really heavy to me. And he was head down really early. So I want to say at like 28 weeks, he was head down, which was great. Saya also was head down at that time too. So I knew, I was eligible, at least in that point. I knew my C-section scar was transverse. So I was eligible in that point. And like I said, at the end, I was just trying to get him out. I was on that exercise ball every day, starting from 36 weeks, all the way until the day he was born. But that Saturday, yeah, it was a Saturday, my family member had a party, and I went, and I was so miserable because it was the end of summer, like still summertime, so I was hot, always hot. And I remember walking like pretty much the whole day, even though I was tired and hot and miserable. I was just walking. I was like, we're gonna get this baby out. I did some curb walking. We walked. I just walked. I got home that night. I definitely was in some kind of pain, but let's see if he lets me continue to talk. I was in some kind of pain, but not really like contractions or anything. I may have had like an upkick in Traivon Hicks, but that was like it. Sunday, I don't think anything really happened on Sunday. But Monday night, you know, I'm still on my ball and everything like that. Monday night, after my exercise ball, after my cup of tea, I remember going to bed. And then at like 9:30, I start feeling something. And I don't really know because would say I never had like contractions before I was actually in labor or like trying to labor, so I didn't really know. I remember texting my mom like, you know, hey, this is what I'm feeling, are these contractions? And she's like, yeah, it sounds like it. So time them and see, you know, if they come at a certain time, see if they get a little bit closer. So that's what I did. And I was up pretty much all night with contractions. They weren't too bad. I would say like on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 2. Like I noticed them, and they definitely were at the beginning, they were kind of sporadic, so maybe like 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, but they definitely, as the night went on, they were getting a little bit closer. And I would say by morning they definitely were getting a little bit more intense. So, you know, I'm super excited. I'm like, yes, I hope this is gonna keep up or whatever. I remember that morning, you know, I got Saya up and I was cooking her breakfast in the kitchen, and I felt something trickle down my leg. And I was like, oh, wait, let me go back. So that night, when I'm having the contractions, like I said, they started about like 9:30 and I was having them. And then, of course, you know, if you're a pregnant person, you're using the bathroom all night. Like, you're getting up to use the bathroom all night. So I know at one point I went and I saw kind of like a little bit of pinkish, a little bit of brownish, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is my mucus plug. So I'm super excited because it's looking like things are going now. So yeah, the morning comes, I'm tired, of course, but I'm excited. I get up with Saya, make her breakfast, and then I'm cooking and stuff trickles down my leg. Now, because it was so late in my pregnancy, and like I said, I'm already hot, I was like, did I just pee on myself? Like, that's all I could think of. I was like, I don't know. Why did I just feel myself? It never happened before. So I go to the bathroom, you know, wipe myself. And I'm like, okay, but I don't really think that much of it. But then as I continue to cook and do things around the house, stuff is still trickling down my legs. So I'm like, no, this must be my water breaking. This must be something else. So I go and you know, put on put on some underwear, put on a pad to see if it's continuing to leak out. And you know, I had an appointment that morning, so I was like, well, if my water did break, then I'll just bring it up at the appointment and, you know, let my doctor know. Now this was an actual appointment with my OB. And so so yeah, so that's how that went. I remember calling my mom because I had a stick shift at the time, and the contractions were definitely getting a little bit more intense, and I knew I could not drive the car. You all right? Am I going to need to pick you up? This guy. All right, I'll pick him up. Ooh, I don't want to mess up my stand. Okay, and move it back just a little bit. And I'll get him real quickly. You just couldn't stay asleep, huh, Booba? And you're so tired. Yeah, you're gonna be so tired. Here he is. All right, let's see if we can still get through this. I don't know if I should move that. So things are picking up. My mom comes over and drives me to my appointment. And I let the doctor know, you know, that I feel like I'm leaking or maybe my water broke. And she was like, oh, okay, well, let's check and see, because apparently they have this test that you can swab, you know, the inside of the vagina and see, and put on a little paper. And if it turns colors, that means it's your amniotic fluid. And if it doesn't, that means it's just sweat or pee or whatever. So she did that, and I remember just watching, it turned like whatever color. I feel like it was green right away. And she was like, yep, that's your fluid, your water's broke, go on over to the hospital. When I tell you, those were like the most exciting words ever. I was so excited. And by now the contractions are definitely picking up, because on the ride to my appointment, it was like when I was having a contraction, I remember being like, ugh, like it wasn't like painful yet, but it was definitely starting to get there. So, you know, we drove back over to the hospital, which was really literally right up the street from where my appointment was. You want to turn around? We drove over to the hospital, and I was admitted no, I wasn't admitted right away just because they, it was like a slow day or something. And I came in, told them my water had broken, and they was like, oh, okay, well, we'll send you up to triage, which they did. And then they did the swab again, and they were like, oh, your water broke. I was like, yeah, I told you, my doctor sent me right over here. I was like, oh, okay, you're being admitted right now. So I was admitted. But my blood pressure did start going up. I want to say, what week was it? Maybe week 36. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. So my blood pressure did start to go up a little bit during week 36. And I remember the doctor at the time was like, she was really, really worried. Like, she wanted me to go and deliver the baby right then and there. Like, that's how she made it seem. She was like, oh, you need to go to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I'm okay. She was like, no, you did so well. You cared for 36 weeks. Your baby will be fine now. And you can be proud of yourself. No, it might have been 38 weeks. But yeah, she wanted me to deliver right then and there. And I was like, well, would it have to be a C-section? She was like, no, we would try the induction and see if that works or whatever. But I just wanted my body to do it, naturally and by itself. So I was like, no, I'm going to go home. I'm going to rest. And, if anything changes, I'll come back. I did have like a handheld blood pressure cuff that I was taking my blood pressure with every day. So just keeping a track of it myself. And it did come down a little bit to what she wanted to see. And she was like, if you have any problems, if you start getting blurry vision, like, she's telling me all the things to look out for that happened with my first pregnancy and my first birth, for preeclampsia. And she was like, if you start getting any of that, I want you in here right away. Like, she really, she really tried to scare me. And I, of course, was already a little nervous. But I was like, no, I think I got this, right? Like, I still felt the baby moving around, and I just wanted it to happen on its own, and it did. So there, I'm admitted in the hospital. Things are, because I was already having contractions, and by this point, they're pretty regular. They're like 5-7 minutes apart, maybe. No more than 7 minutes apart. And they're getting there as far as pain-wise. So I was admitted, I got everything that I got before was say as far as like, no, I had the IV and I had Pitocin, so I was hooked up to that, but I didn't need the balloon because I was already, I can't remember, maybe 3 centimeters dilated. I might have already been 3 or 4 centimeters dilated when I was admitted to the hospital, so I was already in labor, but the Pitocin was just to kick up the contractions a little bit. Now, I had Pitocin for all of my births. So yeah, I did have Pitocin, and I had the saline also as well. And my blood pressure was starting to go up. So while I was in the midst of labor, it was starting to go up. And I know they mentioned the magnesium to me, but I just did not want to take it until one point it was getting really high. It might have been like maybe 150 something over something, which obviously is not good. And it was steadily going up. So I remember one doctor came in and she was like, look, I'd rather you have your baby and be here and not have a seizure and all that stuff. And I remember, once she left, because I told her I still wanted to think about it, I just broke down. I was so defeated. I thought that this is going to go exactly how Sayers went. Like, to me, magnesium meant C-section. Like, you're going to slow your labor down. You're going to have a C-section. Your baby's going to get in distress, all this stuff. So I just broke down. I remember my mom just coming over to me and rubbing my face and saying, you can do this. You got this. It's all right. So that helped me. I did get the magnesium just because I was like, I need to put my best interest and my baby's best interest before my feelings and my emotions. So I got the magnesium. And I still did feel really hot. I still did feel a little out of it. But for the most part, the experience with the magnesium with Matthias versus Saya was night and day. And I think it's just because with Saya, I was so sick. Like, I was already so far gone that I just had a really, really, really bad experience with the magnesium. That time, it wasn't too bad. So, like I said, I was on a Pitocin, labor was going, the contractions were going, I'm doing my breathing, I'm doing my visualization, I'm changing positions. Now, because I had the magnesium, I still had to stay in the bed, which sucked. Because if you've given birth before, without an epidural, moving around is your friend. It's going to help you with the pain. It's going to help you to better, handle your contractions and everything like that. So I had to stay in the bed, but it was okay. My mom, helped me. The nurses helped me. Everyone helped me to get into different positions. I changed up my positions frequently. I utilized the peanut ball, the exercise ball, everything that I could that was at my disposal, we used. I remember at one point my labor started to stall a little bit, and that's when they got the peanut ball for the first time. So that was my first time using it, and it really changed things for me. Like, it sped it up, and by the time, you know, I was done with the peanut ball, like, I had dilated like maybe like 3 centimeters. So yeah, so things were going good. I remember I was on hands and knees at one point. That felt really comfortable, like really, really, really comfortable. That was probably the most comfortable position for that, for Matthias's labor. And at a certain point, I remember my body like starting to push on its own. Like, I could feel the baby's head, and my body just was starting to push. So it was like, yay, the baby's almost here. But I remember when they checked me, I was only at, I don't know, maybe a 6 or maybe a 7. And this labor was taking a while. So Matthias's birth from start to finish it was at least 48 hours, because I started having the contractions with him at that 9:30 on that Monday night, and he wasn't born until Wednesday at 5 or 6 in the morning. So it was a really long time. It was a really long labor, but for my body, it was considered like my first, you know, actual birth. So, you know, I had never went through all the steps of labor before. Are you upset? You upset? You want to see yourself? So yeah, I remember they checked, and it was taking a while, and I think they were starting to get a little bit worried. I must have changed positions at one point, and that put me back on. Hey, you gotta be quiet, cause mommy trying to do a video. Huh? That helped me to dilate, or you can sit right here. Do you want to sit? No. That helped me to dilate. But I remember I was so tired. Because you want to sit on the floor, or here, you can have this, because I had been up so long and having contractions for like 2 days straight, you know. Like I said, I had no epidural, no pain medication, no nothing. And they say that Pitocin contractions hurt more than regular. Like, I really don't have that much to compare it to, because by the time I was having like my really strong contractions and transition and all that, I was already in the hospital on Pitocin. So, I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I was so tired at the end. And of course, it was my goal to have a natural birth, or to have a, to birth without an epidural. But because I was so tired at the end, I was like, I need one. So I remember telling my mom I needed one, and she was like, okay, we'll call them in, and you can get one. And my doctors had told me I could get it all the way up into pushing. So they was like, don't worry about it. Whenever you want it, you can have it. Do you want this? So I called them in, and they was like, well, before you get the epidural, let's just check you and see where you are. So they checked me, and I was at a 9. So I was like, what? Are you for real? And that, just knowing that I was at a 9, just gave me that extra courage or motivation to continue. So then I was like, no, okay, I don't want it. I can do this. I can go 1 more centimeter. Like, I can do it. So I'm going to put him on the floor, and let's see how he acts. Here you go. He doesn't really want to be held. He just want to be down. So yeah, so that happened, and then it didn't take too long to get from 9 to 10. But I do remember that I had a cervical lip. I think that's what it's called. So basically, part of my cervix has swollen because I started pushing prematurely. Like I said, it wasn't really me. Oops. Asa, stop. I'm gonna have to. Do y'all see what I'm dealing with? Well, it wasn't really me per se, but yeah, so my body started pushing, which caused my cervix to swell a little bit. He's just pulling on this thing. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna try to get through this, y'all. I don't know. And so I couldn't give birth until the swelling went down. So that took maybe an additional 30 minutes or maybe like an hour at the most. But once I was at 10, you know, they were like, you're at 10, and you can start some practice pushes. So I remember doing that. And because it was my first time delivering vaginally, like, I didn't know how to push yet until someone was like, you know, push like you're going poop. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I got this. So they were like, you know, bear down with your bottom and push down from your bottom. And I think they might have even held the part where I needed to push down. So once I got the hang of it, then it was fine. Now it did take me a while. Okay. It did take me a while to push him out, like just because it was my first time doing it, and they said let go. And his head was pretty much bigger than the whole rest of his body. And I remember at one point in the labor that they told me to reach down while his head was like halfway out, and I did, and it was like the worst experience ever because no AC Wacy, because hold on y'all, let me see if I can maybe move this. Okay. No. It's okay. I don't know if that's straight. That's not straight. See, this stand is messed up. Okay. So yeah. That was not fun because what else happened? Oh, this. AC, no, you can't pull this. Sabotage. He's trying to sabotage me. I don't think I'll be able to use the stand. AC, no. All right. Sorry about that. So, where was I? I had to push it out. Had to push him out. Asa. No, buddy. And I reached down and it just felt like a squishy alien. And so I don't recommend that. But yeah, but that gave me the motivation to continue to push him out after that. And then once the head was out, the rest was easy, like pushing the shoulders and the rest of the body out. I remember the feeling was like, hey, so if you're going to be up, you got to at least cooperate. It was like really slimy. Like it was just the head was the hardest part. Once that was out, then one more push, the whole rest of the body came out. And that was it. But like it did take a long time. Yes, Booba. What happened? I'm trying to talk. Look, I'm trying to talk to the people. And I'm almost done too. Look, I'm almost done. You can have this. So yeah, he was 6 pounds, 11 ounces. Wait, I'm not done. Almost done because I got to do Kenzo's Ace. He was 6 pounds, 11 ounces. He was maybe, I don't know how long he was. I can't remember how long he was. Bless you. I want to say 18, but I feel like that's not right. Like that can't be right because he was the biggest baby. Maybe 22 inches. I don't know. I feel so bad that I don't remember that. But everything was good. Again, I did still have to be on a magnesium for 24 hours after the birth because I had the magnesium during the birth. And so that's just kind of like a precaution. But it didn't delay anything. Like it didn't delay breastfeeding. And because he was full weight and he didn't have any issues, he stayed with me. I stayed with him. He didn't have to go to the NICU. So that was a new experience for me, and very, very nice. I did stay in the hospital 5 days total afterwards, just because, again, my blood pressure was still all over the place, and it took a while to regulate. But other than that, I did tear. I forgot to say that. So I did tear. And I remember after the birth, you know, after the placenta was delivered and the doctor was like, you tore, then I started freaking out in my head because at this point I'm like, you know, I was able to take the pain through these contractions and pushing it out and all of that. But then I started to get scared because I was like, oh my gosh, I tore. And now they're about to sew me up with no epidural or whatever. But I did get lidocaine. And that worked right away. And when I was sewed up, I didn't feel anything. Yes, Booba. So the whole experience was good. Even though I tore, and that did take, like, you know, a different recovery once I got home. It was great. And I, you know, I finally got my vaginal birth, so I was so happy about that. And I didn't have to leave my baby at the hospital like I did with Saya, and it was wonderful. So that was Matthias's. I don't know, y'all, if I'm gonna be able to get through. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get through Kenzo's and Asa's, because Asa won't cooperate with me. Asa, come on, let me do this. Let me do that. What I gotta do? What I gotta do? What I gotta do? What are you trying to get? Yes? What happened? What happened? You can tell me. Hmm? Or maybe I could go downstairs. I don't know. Maybe if I go downstairs, he'll have something to play with. But he really is tired. And he just won't go to sleep. Maybe I'll stand up. Okay, let's try that. I'll stand up. So if I could just make this a little bit taller. Why are you acting like this, baby Asa? They're trying to hear all the birth stories. Woo! So, where are we? We're on Matthias's? No, Kenzo. Kenzo. So, Kenzo's birth was my best one. It was my best one. And his isn't going to take that long to tell. But I don't know if Asa's going to cooperate. I don't know. I don't think so, y'all. And I would hate to stop it and then still have to tell the rest. I mean, I do have the stories on here. But I just wanted one whole video where I had everyone's all together. Do y'all know what I mean? Oh, baby boy. Why you not going to let mommy do this? All right, now I could try going downstairs. I don't know. If y'all watching, who's watching would be into that. Let me see. Do you want to go downstairs, buddy, so you can play with your toys? Hmm? Do you want to go downstairs? Oh, no. You're just being a little troublemaker. You're just being a little troublemaker. I don't even have my case on here, so let me see if I can hold this. You want to go downstairs? I like to tell the rest of the stories, if you will let me. So this is why I said about these lies. It's just, I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know. I was trying to tell them as fast as I could. Well, you want to go downstairs? I could try it, maybe. What do you think? No. All right, y'all. Maybe, whoops. Maybe what I can do is try for tomorrow night to do Kenzo's and Asa's together. I don't know. Now I'm really bummed. Okay, but y'all can see he's not gonna let me do anything right now. So maybe I'll do those two together, and then I wish I could still put it together as one full video, but I don't know. Okay. So I'm gonna go because he's not having it, and hopefully I'll be able to come back maybe tomorrow night and do the rest. Okay? So yes, thank you if you watch this much tonight, or if you're watching on the replay, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, bye.